Okay, so we have the political party that sent me a flyer. I've had two, but one of them got thrown away because it was before the date that I decided to save. Actually, no, I've had three. I don't know what the other one had. I did save one, but maybe the cat's eating it or something. Anyway, so I have this one. Yes, yeah, that's UKIP. That's UKIP. Yep, and then it starts off with, Labour Conservative politicians have wrecked this town, don't vote them in again. Wow, double negative. Negative on both political parties that might get in. So vote for UKIP because they are against the mindless expansion of Northampton. Mindless expansion. Okay. Let's be clear, if our population is growing, even without immigrants, which it will be because people have children, we're going to need new houses somewhere. People don't die as quick as they used to, which is, on the whole a good thing for those old people who would normally be dead by now, but it does mean we need more houses. That's just the facts of life. And for somebody who keeps on, for Nigel Farage, who keeps on standing up on television saying this is just common sense, to then try to deny this is a bit stupid. Okay, so there's not really a lot in this. There's been 45 years of explosive growth. Northampton is full up. Have we heard the somewhere is full up mantra before? I think we have. Farming and Greenfields have been built on at an increasing rate. 85,000 to 320,000 people in 50 years is simply unsustainable. Okay, Northampton General's A&E is continually overwhelmed. That's because of NHS cuts, you fucking dipshits. We need 4 new schools a year for the next 10 years to keep up. There are nowhere near enough doctor surgeries to cope. There is ever-increasing road traffic chaos in rush hour. That's not because of immigrants, it's because people can't fucking drive. And no. I'm not joking. That entire point there is no. That's it. So Roy's got 8 different points there, one of which is no. It's not really a selling point to me. It's actually quite hard to read this because it's not great. There's like missing punctuation. There should be commas here and there. There should be pauses, unless of course you're somebody that talks like me when I've had lots of caffeine, sugar, and alcohol, and I'm really infused by subject. In which case, then it will be quite natural for there to be no pauses because I've actually mastered the art of talking really fast because I breathe in and out while talking, whereas most people only breathe out while they're talking. Assuming most people aren't like that, this is just badly written. It's not the worst written in the world. It's dear people of Northampton. Anyway, okay. So recently, the Northamptonshire Enterprise Partnership announced that Northampton is going to grow by 40% in the next few years. It told us that the plans to build more than 36,000 new homes. But what they didn't tell us was this would mean 90,000 new people moving into the town. They don't mind telling us about the houses, but they won't tell you what that really means. What? Do people think they were going to build these new houses and then they were just going to sit there empty? Don't be stupid. Firstly, 90,000 people moving to the area isn't necessarily the case. People within the area could move to those new houses and buy them. Or live in them without buying them, renting them, or whatever. Doesn't mean that new people are going to move here. In the 60s, Northampton was a pleasant market town, population around 85,000 people. Now it is a booming development town, population 230,000, set to rise to 320,000 over the next few years. Yet we, the people who live here, have never had any say in this. There should be comments there. Yet we, the people who live here, have never had any say in this. It has simply been imposed on us. This latest expansion is really only by our politicians, but it's feared by many Northamptonians, and does not have our permission, nor have we ever voted for it. You don't get to vote for what happens in your town, actually. That's not the way it works. Sorry, never has done. Now, fair enough, the world has moved on, and no one would really object to a rising population to 125,000 or 150,000, but no one could have envisaged 320,000 in a couple of generations. Let's be clear here, a rising population creates economic booms. That's what it does. It does. It creates more trade, creates more money in the economy, which then means that everybody, generally speaking, gets better off. So to say that if you want to make sure that the economy doesn't boom, then you restrict movement of people, you restrict people moving here. I mean, let's make it clear. A lot of people who have moved here over that time period will have been English, living in different English towns, moving to this English town, maybe because it's bigger. Some of them may have moved here because it's smaller. They may have moved from London, in which case, regardless of how fast Northamptonshire's population grows, it's never going to be London level, is it? 8 million people in one fucking city. Ridiculous. So, it's just a whole load of assertions which have no real basis in fact. And this leads us as to how UKIP would transform local government. We are pledged to introduce local referendums so that people decide. If the NEP want to build 36,000 new houses in our town, then under UKIP's plan they have to ask us first, and more importantly we have to agree. Everywhere you go in the countryside you'll find towns and villages objecting to new properties being built. Everywhere. It's always the case. So everyone agrees we need more houses. Nobody wants them to build them anywhere. Kind of reminds me of drug rehab. You know, people want drug rehabilitation. They want people to get the support they need, just nowhere near their house. They want it to happen somewhere else, off camera, where you don't have to see, you know, the side effects of people getting help for drug support. And this is exactly the same, really. We want new houses. We want people to have homes to live in. We don't like homelessness, but we don't want those houses to be anywhere near us because peasants, basically. Peasants or foreigners. Foreigners! Okay. The Conservatives who run the Council Council and the leader of the council are the main cheerleaders for this development. Doubtless they mean well and genuinely think it is best for the town. Trying very hard not to attack them. Trying to avoid negative politics. No! Failed. Sometimes it seems as if they had determined to build every bit of green grass in Northampton to joined up to Wellingborough, Toaster and Kettering. Don't think it couldn't eventually happen. Well, obviously it will. You know, in 100 years, I imagine Britain will look very different. But we're not there yet, so we'll see it now. So as the leader of the council said recently, our town has benefited from an unprecedented level of investment, with construction and restoration happening almost everywhere you look. Our intent is to ensure Northampton is recognised as one of the most progressive places in the country. He says progress, but we say he is slowly taking away your quality of life. The obvious way to grow Northampton is by no more than 1,000 homes a year built on redundant brownfield sites, of which there are many dotted around the town. Then the town can grow naturally alongside the roads and infrastructure. No towns grow naturally. No towns grow naturally because they're not natural. I don't really understand that statement. Anyway, many of us will be gone when all this comes to final fruition, so this fight is for our children, our grandchildren, and their children. If we don't win it, then they will never enjoy the lives that we have enjoyed. Nobody enjoys the life their parents have enjoyed because time has moved on. And by enjoyed, it's a weird statement to say because, you know what, my grandparents would have enjoyed World War II. You know, they would have enjoyed World War II and the fallout from World War II. They would have enjoyed, you know, starvation, war rationing. You know, when I say starvation, I'm not talking Africa levels of starvation, but you know, food restriction, and they would have enjoyed denial of freedom, the freedoms that we now have. They wouldn't have had things that we now have. We have so many things now, so many things that we can spend our time doing, we can enjoy ourselves with, that they've just never had. So when we say they're not going to have the opportunity to enjoy the things we have, well, no, they're not. You're absolutely right. They will never be able to enjoy the things that we have now, but they will be able to enjoy a whole lot of things that we don't have now. So it's a bit of a. I don't even know how to call that. Is it a straw man? Is it just a red herring, a fallacious argument? I don't really get it. UKIP fundamentally are the party of let's build a time machine, you know. They want us to all go back to where it was in the 50s, in the good old days, which most of us weren't even around in now, before there were Johnny foreigners everywhere, basically. I'm really surprised he hasn't used that phrase yet in his in the TV debates. I was quite amused to see him last night when a guy who clearly has immigration in his past asked how public services are meant to stand up to immigrants coming in, and Nigel Farage had a bit of a meltdown on TV before that when he started going, foreigner. I don't know if anybody saw it, it was quite funny. But he had a bit of a meltdown, and then they got to immigration later on. It was just quite funny. He attacked the audience for a minute there. I mean, come on. The only people who attack the audience are people like Eminem in that sort of style of music, not refer to their fans as maggots, which is not generally considered to be an insult. Nigel Farage attacked the audience, and then he attacked the audience at home. It was just a bit bizarre. Anyway, so moving back onto UKIP again. Fundamentally, UKIP are a single policy party. They're all about immigration. I did have an old flyer there, which was 100 reasons to vote UKIP, of which there were 3 reasons. 1, don't elaborate the economy. 2, don't trust the Tories because they're liars. And all of the other 97 were variations of get out the EU and stop immigrants coming here and stealing all of our stuff. Our jobs and our benefits, both at the same time, so in fact you can't have both at the same time. The entire thing is just a bit of a wash of just own false patriotism, obviously. And we should back up, we should, look after our ex-servicemen. Obviously we should look after our ex-servicemen, but I don't think that's relevant to the UKIP argument, really. Okay, so here's another thing I need to add about the brownfield sites. The reason why we have a house shortage is because the people who own, and this is actually something that Ed Miliband touched in the debate, which I actually thought was quite good of him to mention it. He didn't really say I was going to sort it out, but he did mention it. He was the only person who mentioned it, actually in the debate, which is quite interesting. Anyway, so, where were they? Yes. So, building on brownfield sites. Look, everywhere in this country now, that is potentially going to be useful for building on is already owned by developers who are not building houses. And the reason why they're not building houses is because they're also the companies that already own the existing houses, which they're profiting by renting them out. They are creating a false supply shortage to boost demand. Well, I say it's a false supply shortage because they could build more properties, but the problem you've got is that these people profit by the inflated price of rent. So, if they were to build more houses, they would bring down the price of rent, therefore cutting their own profits directly. No business is ever going to do that. No business is going to say, we're going to roll this out, it's going to harm our profits, it's going to cost us more to build, and then we're going to get less profit on all of our properties. We're actually going to be in a net loss. No business is going to do that. So all these brownfield sites I refer to in Northampton, they are already owned. If the people who own those lands wanted to build on them, they would already be doing it. They're not doing it because they're benefiting too much from it not being, from them not building. And for him, all of this talk about supply and demand, he doesn't seem to understand it himself. What can you expect from somebody who's a born millionaire? I mean, everyone's got to have a hobby. His hobby was making even more money, but it's easy to do that when you already have lots of more money. But they're just not a party of the people. It makes me sick when people talk about those being party people. They are more Tory than the Tories. They are more backed by wealthy sponsors than the Tories ever were. They're not going to get into this election. They might potentially make it into a coalition, potentially, or some kind of supply and demand. They're not going to be a formal coalition because nobody's stupid enough to do that. And they might theoretically back up the Tories. The fact it could be a Tory splinter group. It could in fact be a deliberate Tory splinter group. A lot of people have said. I don't think it is because politicians, I don't mean to tar anybody with that brush, but seriously, as a group, politicians seem to be so devoted to their ideology, they don't seem to have to plan any further than that, and the Conservatives certainly don't plan ahead enough for that, let's be clear. And UKIP won't either. UKIP's plan is get out of the EU, and then everything will be great, despite the evidence that it won't. Yeah, so, moving on. That's it for UKIP, really. I only have the one file, I'm afraid, because somebody threw away my other one. And obviously, meme!